incorporated too early, because they didn't develop anywhere near as quickly as we did. And that became obvious when we had school for almost 15 years before they had high school. So, but that, as I say, that's a theory. But because you had to have that many people, sometimes they did some strange carving. Mm-hmm.
I lived just a few doors south of Kensington on Maryland Avenue. And the people in Kensington, they're Shorewood.
Right.
Their back lot lines are White Fishing Lake. It's kind of weird.
Right, it is. So, the other fun thing about this was that at this point in time, if you did still have property over here on this side, and like a small farm or something, you could still have cows and chickens or whatever, but you could not have them on this side. Okay. I don't know about rabbits, but.
One more quick question.
Yeah.
St. Robert's, it looks like it's cut in half. Like what St. Robert's now is,
St. Robert's
Forest
would
City.
have been right in here.
oh.
This is Atwater.
But St. Robert's was built in 1912, I think, so wouldn't it be there?
Yeah, the original parish was set up in 12.
That's not that big blob right there?
No, this is Atwater.
Oh,
And over here, what St. Robert started with was just the building that's right in the corner of Maryland and Capitol. It's now a school building,
School.
and they have their church in the basement. So it was a fairly small building that just didn't show up on here very well. So, this is our village hall, which was built in about 1907 or 8. Originally it was a schoolhouse. It was a 4-room schoolhouse. And it only went back to this partition here. So there probably were two rooms downstairs and 2 up here. And it was used as the grade school for this area for about until they built Atwater in 1915. It has changed quite a bit in appearance because we put an addition on the back, which is this one. All the places where there are knotty pine that goes all the way across, and then a third addition was added not too terribly many years ago, but added the elevator and made it handicap accessible. But it's the only building, large building here that's on the National Register of Historic Places. Well, it's our offices are in the basement of this building. If you really want a trip, that's the place to go. So, right down into the steam pipes.
What is that structure behind the building?
This right here?
Yeah.
It was garages. And those were here quite a while. There were garages there. They kept the fire trucks in there for a while, and whatever. And in Manor, when you got here now, but for a while, I think in the 80s, the health department was actually in there. Before they built the bigger library, but there were garages there. So, anyway, moving on. Atwater was built in 1915. I love this picture. This would be Frederick here and running up from the school, the road that's right back out here. And as you can see, there wasn't a whole lot on either side.
It was such a big school for
It was.
many people.
Well, quickly outgrew this building, and they needed something bigger. And primarily as a grade school is what they're looking for 2 reasons. One was not everybody went on to high school at that point, and the other was that kids could go down to Riverside High School in Milwaukee and go to high school if they wanted to. But they could kind of begin to see, even in 1915, that this was going to be residential family, and as you saw on that map, a lot of the original homes were on this side of Shorewood. So this school was built in 15, and by 1919 they were already adding on to it. So it was built in 2 additions to have about 22 classrooms altogether. And it served the community into the early 20s when they started having to add the high school to it as well, because Riverside would not take our kids anymore. So then it was really crowded. They had rooms in the basement and all over the place trying to accommodate the kids. So they had to start thinking about building other schools. By 1924, the village was starting to obviously go the other side of Oakland, and so we built Lake Bluff. This was the first part of Lake Bluff, and this is, familiar with that area, this is actually facing Bartlett. This Lake Bluff Boulevard would be over on this side. This was the first little addition, probably 6 classrooms. Over the next 10 years, they just kept adding wings. This building is just a gem. Both the schools are interesting, but this one in particular was designed by a man named Eschweiler. Some of you may live in homes designed by Eschweiler, who's a very big name in the early 20th century. And it's got the most charming decorations in the inside of the school in terms of the window decorations and the little gargoyles in the corners and fireplaces in the kindergarten rooms so the children wouldn't get cold. And they even had little like goldfish ponds in some of these rooms. Wonderful tile. It's just the delightful building. My children went to school there. So. At the same time that they were building this, they were also starting to build the high school. This was the original architect's plan, and it did not all totally come to fruition, but some of it did. The administration building as we know it, the performance arts building, a little different configuration with some of these others. We actually have the science building over here now, and the pools, and then the football fields out behind. Power plant is about where it is. But this was a lot of thought and planning went into that school, obviously. In fact, a lot of thought and planning went into the whole educational system in Shorewood. It was extremely important to the people who were moving out here. And they looked at German schools that have multi-building type classrooms. They wanted kind of a college feeling to the place. And it was not built without self-criticism. There certainly was some criticism of the community, but for the most part, they were able to kind of keep moving forward so that they built the high school, starting with the administration building, which opened 6 months after Lake Bluff did. It opened for the second semester in 1925 with this building, and this was for the high school and the junior high at that point. And the beginning, like February 1st, lovely day like today, they marched the kids from Atwater over to the high school to start school in this new building. Between 1925 and 1936, they built the science building, which is this one over here, the gyms, which are behind this building, and finally the Performing Arts Building in 36, which was actually part of the WPA project. We judged when these pictures were taken by how high the trees are. Obviously, this was just getting going, and then we grew up and we grew up and we grew up, and then we got Dutch elm disease in the 70s, and they came down and started all over again. So, this is also a neat old building. At this point, it had really nice windows too. It's a bear, and I worked with the school system for about 25 years, and know that it's a constant battle to try to figure out how to make this for modern purposes, how to use computers, how to even get telephone lines to the walls or something thick. But thankfully, the district has continued to, okay, how do we do this and still save the buildings? And they've taken very good care of them. The property home up here in the top was the most unique final touch. It was, I forget, just some one person was just probably determined we're going to have that. And we did. And that has changed from copper to green a couple times too. Of course, it was history. So the last thing to say about education is that the community not only felt strongly about the education for their children, but also for adults. And starting in the late 20s, we already had an adult education program here. And it was just bloomed. It was huge. Night classes were teaching adults and everything from knitting to speaking Spanish to, as it got closer towards the Depression era, then they started teaching even hard skills like welding and various things that people needed to get back to work. They had wonderful, what they call the Travel and Adventure Series on Sunday afternoons in the auditorium. Everybody would come to hear speakers who could be people like Carl Sanford or Thor Heyerdahl, or we've even discovered that Eleanor Roosevelt spoke here once, but quite often it was people who traveled during the year and then spent the next year going around to show their slides and their pictures of where they had been. So a lot of the names reappeared several times as the speakers. And this program just flourished until about 1960. We got killed by two things. One was television, and the second was that television was running Packard schools in the afternoon. Bye-bye for that. The school eventually merged into MATC in the late 60s. A little bit about housing. This is Menlo, looking east from Maryland. This one always had a boulevard, and if you look over far enough here, you're getting over towards the lake, and you're also getting over to an area that once was a golf course. Very small golf course, and they used goats to keep the grass down, but there was a golf course there. Also horses and a nice place along the lake, to look over the lake. It became the Milwaukee Country Club. And when they realized that they were not going to have enough room down here to really play a good game of golf, they moved farther north. But every once in a while we get questions when people live over in that area. This was further than the golf course at one time. Housing began to take off here about the time we changed our name in 1917. And through the 1920s, and just to give you For example, in 1920, when the census was taken, we had about 2,600 people here. By 1930, we had over 13,000. During the 1920s, there were 200 or better on average homes being built every single year. You can imagine what the summers were like around here. You know, construction absolutely everywhere. Most of the area, the entire community at that point was built up. There were still open lots, but it was pretty much totally covered by the end of the 20s. Our population continued to rise up until about 1960. At that point, we got to our high of about 16,000, and we've come back down from it a little bit, but people have smaller families at this point than they used to, so that's part of it. Our housing was every kind of revival style and on demand, which is what makes our housing so fun. This house up here has a very special history. It was built by a man named Hingle. It's on the corner of Frederick and Kensington.
Kensington.
In 1916 or 17. He was the designer of the building next door here, the police and fire department, and he also designed a lot of the buildings down at DPW. By major trade, he was an architect of fire stations and armories, but he also did a lot of our public buildings, and he also designed Hubbard Lodge. So somewhere along the line, he was trying to build himself a house as well. But that house is kind of a good example of all the various, you had so many different styles. There was nothing, you never see cookie cutter houses, except for the bungalows, but even those have their own unique personality. This house down here may well have been a farmhouse one time. This is right on Edgewood. And especially when you see houses that are very close to the street, they've either been here a really long time or they may well have been a farmhouse here before the restrictions were put into this, how far back you had to put a house. This house has a gorgeous garden in the back there. This one I put in here because I had a good friend who was teaching at UWM, who was in architecture school, and he could never get over the duplexes in Shore. He said, none of them look alike. He said, they're just, which wasn't exactly true, but we do have a variety of duplexes. This one is on Maryland, just coming up the hill from Edgewood. Garage is underneath, made to fit the property. A lot of our duplexes, you look at them from the front and you can't tell if they're duplexes. A lot of them were built because people realized if they could build half and rent out half, they could afford to move here, or they brought mom along and she lived in the other half. This house everybody hits because, again, it's so unique and I love it. It's just really cute. I'm not even sure what you call it, arts and crafts probably. Obviously, we have a ton of bungalows, and those were built. People would come in and say, you know, go down the block and build them. But they always try to make them all look a little bit different, and then over the years, people have added porches, they added dormers, they changed, you know, whatever, so that they all kind of have a unique personality. The block just south of here on every bungalow style, every possible one is in that block, if you just want to make a study of that particular one style.
I actually have a question on the bungalows. That's when I bought a bungalow, and it has a fake fireplace in it.
Oh,
I feel like I've heard a couple theories on that. I'm just of what.
Probably they were trying to look like they had more money than they did.
Okay, that's what I feel like I've heard both directions. Either couldn't afford a real one, or you were rich enough where you had electricity or enough, enough heat.
That's could be part of it too. Yeah, it was just most of them were built before that. Electricity would have been much of a doable, I think.
Okay.
But they thought they were neat and they put them in even if they couldn't use them. Although those houses have a lot of charm to them as well. Lots of them are kind of arts and crafts style, where you've got a lot of the built-in dining room, hutch type things, and a lot of pretty glass in the windows and nice woodwork. They weren't cheap houses. I mean, they weren't built to be cheap. They were nice homes. But they made it possible for people of medium income to move out here. Obviously, most of the people who built the houses long lake drive had a lot more money than that, and that was for good reason called the Gold Coast for many years. But we have some really interesting ads that were done by realtors trying to get people to move out here and build. And we have one from the northeast side of the village that talks about the fact that you must build a single family house. You must put $15,000 into the property. And oh, by the way, these are the people who are going to be your neighbors. And it kind of reads like a who's who, whatever. There's another one that talks about the lots up here kind of along Oakland. $25 down, come and we'll help you build whatever you want to build around the bus line. A totally different kind of, response in terms of who they were trying to attract. So for quite a while, it took a while for people to even say apartments would be a good thing around here. Most of the apartment buildings along Oakland, especially which look very similar, were built in the late 20s. So, this is my final subject here, Hubbard Park and our recreation. Hubbard Park was a little bit of land kind of left over somewhat from the amusement parks that had been set aside for recreation. But it wasn't until the 20s that the village said, yeah, let's make a park over there and we'll name it after Mr. Hubbard, who had been the first village president and was involved in village government for 25 to 30 years. And then they kind of had to wait until the late 30s when Franklin Roosevelt started the WPA, the Work Progress Administration, and made partnerships between federal and local governments for building things possible. And Hubbard Park was one of the things that was done. And basically what it meant was that the government federal government would pay some of the salaries.